Chapter 691. Because I want to give you the best. Hearing this, Gu Jingze looked at Chen Yucheng with a chilly gaze. Chen Yucheng tilted his head to look at him and immediately registered his warning. As a result, he smiled meaningfully and shut his mouth. However, that smile had already triggered countless wild thoughts in everyone. Shen Yoren nearly sprang up from her seat. Oh no, it seems like something really happened. PFT, PFT. Your life is so sweet. Even I want to get married. Yu Minmin went over to her and said, don't think like that. There's only one Mr. Gu on earth. Don't think that all marriages are this good just because this one is. The two of them really don't seem like a couple that has been married for a long time. Of course, Shen Yoren was merely being a little envious. However, beside her, Chen Yucheng looked at her in deep thought. It was Abby's first time attending a gathering like this. For a moment, she felt that their relationships with one another were quite good. She was very glad that she could be a part of it. On the other hand, Shui Yong kept watching from the sidelines. He could not join in the conversation and did not want to either. But for the first time, he felt that these people who had seemed like very cold figures were actually so easygoing in real life. He was also surprised that Gu Jingze was unexpectedly doting towards Lin Che in private. Any man who knew to pamper his woman was definitely not that bad of a person. Thus, his impression of Gu Jingze improved immensely. The meal ended with Gu Jingze asking Lin Che to leave with him. He saw that it was quite late and asked Lin Che to go home with him, so everyone went their separate ways. In the end, they did not even know who had paid for the meal. Nevertheless, everyone was very happy and they were not really concerned about who had paid. They left together one by one. Abby led Shui Yong out. As she had not converted her driving license to AC Nation license just because she did not want to do the exam, she could not drive here at the moment. Thus, she asked Shui Yong to drive her home in her car since he had gotten his driving license recently. In the car, Abby looked at Shui Yong and asked, I didn't expect so many people to attend the gathering today. Did you feel uncomfortable? Shui Yong glanced at her. No. He turned his head, smiled, and said, although I didn't think that I would be eating at the same table as Gu Jingze, it was nothing once I figured it out. I think that someone would only feel tired if they genuinely and desperately hoped for acknowledgement from other people. You probably wouldn't care so much if you stopped being concerned about whether the other party would like or hate you. I was just thinking earlier that although Gu Jingze is very powerful, I'm not trying to get something out of him. So in theory, it doesn't matter who he is. When I thought in that way, I stopped feeling uncomfortable. Hearing this, Abby felt that he made a lot of sense. She looked up at Shui Yong. Not bad. I didn't expect you to have such deep thoughts. Of course. He smiled brightly. Gu Jingze and Lin Che did not take the car home. He held her hand and they slowly strolled home together. It was a narrow road with few people on either side. The light from the street lamps shone onto the branches before falling heavily onto the ground. It was truly very pleasant. Are Abby and that young man together? Lin Che said, I didn't ask about that. But it wouldn't matter even if they were dating anyway. Gu Jingze said, perhaps, but they're too different from each other. Even if Abigail is in C Nation right now, she may not remain here in the future. Well, they're still young. They should be having fun dating right now and not concerning themselves with so many practical problems. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che helplessly. But right now, he actually thought that what she had said made sense. Gu Jingze took her hand into his and quietly smiled while looking at her. Lin Che could not help but look up. Confused, she wondered what he was laughing about. However, since he looked so handsome smiling, she stopped caring about why he was smiling. But he held her chin and softly planted a kiss on her lips. She closed her eyes. There was a hint of bashfulness to her red cheeks. He smiled and asked, have you chosen our wedding location? I think a closer location is better. We shouldn't go too far. It's tiring to travel such a long distance too. Lin Che truly did not want her wedding to be so grand and expensive. She would feel embarrassed if they did all this just for a wedding. Gu Jingze stared into her eyes as if he had already read her mind. He raised his eyebrows slowly and said, Lin Che, this is my wedding. I've said before that I must have a wedding that will leave me no future regrets. But spending so much money isn't worth it to me. Why don't we do something else? Gu Jingze clasped her hands tightly. Of course, it's worth it. You only get one wedding. You won't get another one in the future. I hope that you will have no regrets when you remember it. Gu Jingze merely felt very glad to spend money on her and hoped he could give her the best. It was a very pure emotion. He did not want to boast, nor did he want it to be grand. He simply wanted to give her the best. Seeing the resolute expression on Gu Jingze's face, Lin Che could only say, then the Great Barrier Reef. All right, I'll make preparations, he said. The next day, Yu Minmin returned to the company and formally began work again. The press conference for the premiere of Witch's Diary was to be held in the assembly hall of B City. Lin Che was going to attend the press conference. Naturally, because of the incidents surrounding her recently, she became the celebrity whom the reporters targeted most at the press conference. Hearing that Lin Che had arrived, numerous reporters rushed towards her and hastily surrounded her the moment they saw her. They hoped to get footage of her as she had not appeared in public for a long time and was a hot topic for discussion on the internet. Lin Che looked completely calm and not at all like she had been affected by these rumors. Hello everyone, she greeted the reporters. One reporter immediately asked, Lin Che, have you been resting these days? When are you going to Hollywood? Lin Che smiled and replied, I'll head over there very soon after I'm done with promotional activities here. I've only been out of the public eye for a few days. I only took a short break from filming, but have you guys missed me that much? Everyone looked at her amusingly. Someone asked, do you have any response to the recent rumors? Lin Che replied, there are so many rumors on the internet. I read all of them whether they were good or bad. I get angry when I read the bad ones too, but I don't know how to deal with them, so I handed the task to my company. The company will just respond to those that it can respond to. We divide our tasks quite clearly. The company is responsible for all miscellaneous matters and I'm responsible for simply playing my role well. After all, my fans got to know about me and like me because of these roles, so I should play my roles well for everyone. That's the only way to truly give back to everyone, right? The reporters felt that Lin Che had really matured. She even had the demeanor of a veteran when she answered questions. She answered elegantly and leisurely. Furthermore, she seemed to be growing into her looks and was much more beautiful. Her beauty was not the refined beauty that came after plastic surgery, but her cheeks were more full and her skin looked like it was glowing too. She looked very natural and beautiful. Chapter 692, Minmin, I know that you like me. However, although they knew that they probably would not be able to get any answers from her, the reporters continued following her persistently with the hope that she would at least answer some questions. The production crew quickly sent some people to escort Lin Che and get the reporters to clear the path first. Yu Minmin watched the press conference begin. The trailer for Witch's Diary was shown on the screen. The exquisite scenes shown were very exciting. It definitely lived up to the hype over the series. Looking at it now, the end result was pretty good indeed. Lin Che finally appeared on the screen later on. Each glance, each smile, and each confident movement looked like it came out of a blockbuster. It was extremely appealing, but ordinary people probably could not understand the complex acting prowess from a role of this kind. Thus, although everyone thought that she looked good, they had no other comments. Yu Minmin took a seat in the guest area. After sitting there for some time, she sensed someone come up to her, making her feel a wave of nausea. She turned around only to see Feng Xiaoqing's face immediately. She froze instantly. Hey, why are you here? Feng Xiaoqing smiled. It's the press conference for the premiere, so I was invited to attend. I knew from watching the television that you had returned to B City. Mr. President is fine, right? He's fine now. He just can't make a press statement at the moment. Feng Xiaoqing said, this television series is not bad. I think it will make Lin Che blow up again for some time. I hope so, Yu Minmin said while smiling. Feng Xiaoqing smiled and said, it's no problem. You have always had a good eye. He looked at her with a soft gaze and his eyes had a hint of gentleness that had another overtone to it. Yu Minmin hastily turned her head away and pretended not to see it. Feng Xiaoqing shifted his gaze as well and asked her, what would you like to drink? Anything is fine. In that case, a glass of vodka. No way, that's so strong. You can drink just a little. I took a look earlier and the vodka looks good. Alright then. Seeing as the television series was receiving good response and Lin Che was calmly handling the reporters' persistent questions like a veteran, Yu Minmin was very pleased. It had not been easy from the beginning for them to end up where they were today. Lin Che had pretty much paved her own way step by step. She was truly awe-inspiring. Yu Minmin took the narrow wine glass from Feng Xiaoqing and spoke to him for a bit. Then, she looked at the stage where the main producer was answering questions from the reporters. Feng Xiaoqing sipped on some vodka. He glanced sideways at her side profile. The glint in his eyes was concealed thereafter. Shortly thereafter, the premiere ceremony was about to end. Yu Minmin looked at the extraordinary excitement happening on stage but felt slightly dizzy. Feng Xiaoqing approached her. What happened, Minmin? It's all right. That's why I said that I didn't want to drink alcohol. But in the end, she thought about going to wash her face, but she swayed on her feet. Feng Xiaoqing quickly held her upright. Yu Minmin said, "Thank you." However, she persistently felt more and dizzier. She leaned backward inch by inch and ultimately fell abruptly into Feng Xiaoqing's arms. "Hey, what happened to Sister Yu?" someone asked. Feng Xiaoqing smiled and said, "Nothing. She drank too much vodka." Everyone knew that they were acquainted since they had seen the two of them chatting happily earlier. Thus, they did not say anything more. Yu Minmin had not fainted immediately either and merely felt weak. She leaned against him and walked out with him supporting her. "Thank you, my personal bodyguards are outside. In a while, just hand me over to the president's personal bodyguards." Yu Minmin found it strange that the vodka was so potent. However, not long after, while leaning on him, she was hit with wave after wave of dizziness. Shortly thereafter, she lost consciousness. When she woke up, the bed was very soft, but the person in front of her looked a little unfamiliar. She immediately woke up. She was not in the glazed tile palace. And it immediately became clear to her as well that the person gazing at her was Feng Xiaoqing. She sat up instantly and was even more surprised when she saw where she was. They were actually in a hotel room. "Feng Xiaoqing, you brought me here when I said that my bodyguards were at the entrance." Her mind was still groggy. She even sounded weak when she spoke. However, she saw Feng Xiaoqing inch closer and closer towards her. His gaze was very different from his usually gentle gaze. "Minmin, I know that you've liked me for a very long time." Yu Minmin froze upon hearing his words. Xiaoqing, I really liked you in the past. But I merely had positive feelings for you when we were young. They never reached that extent." However, Feng Xiaoqing suddenly approached her dangerously. "Minmin, stop deceiving yourself. You know that you like me. I knew it too, but I never had the chance to tell you until I met you again at my family's company." Yu Minmin had an increasingly bad feeling about this, especially when she looked at Feng Xiaoqing's unusual expression. "Xiaoqing, you've really misunderstood me. I'm already married now. It's inappropriate for us to talk about these things, right? I know that we missed the right timing. But Minmin, you must be clear about what your heart wants. You still like me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been trying to help me too. You wouldn't have gotten so close to me again either. To be honest, it's fate that brought us together again. In that case, why don't we follow God's will?" He suddenly threw himself at her. Using the little strength that she had left, Yu Minmin immediately jumped aside. "Feng Xiaoqing, what are you doing?" She collapsed and felt her body go limp. Feng Xiaoqing said, "Minmin, I know you're afraid. Don't worry, you and I are the only ones who will know about our relationship. It doesn't matter." "What do you mean, our relationship? There's nothing between us." Yu Minmin looked at Feng Xiaoqing furiously. She did not expect him to have such a corrupted mind under his proper appearance. "Stop lying to yourself. I know that you like me. Minmin, no one will discover our relationship. Look at us. I'm yours now and you can now have the future you've always dreamed of. Don't you think it's amazing?" He leaned even closer to her and suddenly appeared right in front of her. "Minmin, I really like you too. I don't want us to miss each other again. I've always regretted not confessing to you back then. Truly, why don't we just be together in secret? Even if it's a secret relationship, I still want to be with you." He looked at Yu Minmin. Looking at her now, he had not expected her figure to be so good. He had not intended to take things this far. But his status in the family was under severe threat. He had to make his choice now. If Yu Minmin was willing to help him, he would definitely be able to protect his position as the successor. Thus, he needed Yu Minmin to devote herself completely to helping him. He was giving her the courage to do it now. He believed that she liked him but merely lacked the courage to be with him. If she physically became his right now, she would have no other option. Chapter 693, Don't You Feel Lonely? When it occurred to him that his destiny might change today, Feng Xiaoqing made up his mind instantly and immediately jumped on her. He tore her clothes off and was about to kiss her face, but Yu Minmin quickly dodged him. Let go of me, Feng Xiaoqing. Let go. I won't. Minmin, just wait and see. I don't believe that you don't want me. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you like me. He pulled her arms away with both hands. She resisted with all her might. I don't like you. How can I possibly like you? Feng Xiaoqing, are you mad? I have a man. I have a husband. I definitely wouldn't like you. I'm the first lady. You dare to touch me? Do you have a death wish? Her words did have some impact. He was slightly frightened at the thought of Yu Jingming. But when he thought about it differently, he felt that she would not feel this way once she belonged physically to him. What's more, she would not tell Mr. President about this incident. After all, it was detrimental to her if Mr. President knew that she was tainted. Thus, he said even more boldly, Minmin, what are you afraid of? The fact that you're already married is all the more reason not to be afraid. Look, Mr. President is so busy. You must feel very lonely all the time. I heard that this was just a political marriage to him. You must be very sad usually. Come, let me console you properly today. He finally released his instincts and stopped putting up a false pretense. He caressed her face and made noises that made her want to puke. Yu Minmin turned her head away in disgust. You shameless man, if you dare to come closer, I guarantee that I will make your life difficult. Hee. In a while, you'll be defeated by my charisma. While saying this, he pressed his face towards hers. Yu Minmin merely felt so disgusted that she was even about to hurl immediately. However, when she reached her arms out to push against his chest, she simply felt that her arms were soft and limp. Her arms were like cotton and had no effect on him. Just then, someone outside suddenly knocked on the door. Young Master Feng, we're in trouble. We're surrounded by people outside. It seems like they're here to search for someone. Feng Xiaoqing's entire body jolted. Yu Minmin's eyes twitched as well. As if she had suddenly gained hope, she stared at Feng Xiaoqing without blinking at all. Who? I don't know. They look like bodyguards or something like that. Block them as much as you can. Feng Xiaoqing immediately said in a flustered tone. He stood up and looked at Yu Minmin who was laying there. He was momentarily at a loss. He could only pace back and forth while muttering, where should I go, where? Just then, he suddenly thought of something and directly pulled Yu Minmin to her feet. This is only the 5th floor. Let's jump out of the window. Yu Minmin immediately turned pale from fright. No way, Feng Xiaoqing, don't mess around. We might die even if this is the 5th floor. That's impossible. Since he formed a barricade outside, I'll take you out of here. We'll look for another quiet place and continue what we were doing. He gazed up at her face and smiled. He said, don't worry. Don't be afraid. This is why they say the course of true love never did run smooth. The course of true love never did run smooth. Yu Minmin immediately felt even more worried. She was still completely healthy and did not want to die here. Meanwhile, outside. Their person standing guard outside was hesitating. Feng Xiaoqing had given him a sizable sum of money to help keep a lookout here. He had initially thought that it was an easy job, but he did not expect the woman whom Feng Xiaoqing had brought here to be an important figure. Now, there were actually even bodyguards at the door looking for her. When he saw a few bodyguards coming closer, he hastily walked towards them and asked, Hey, what are you doing? You're not allowed to loiter around the hotel. Are you guests at the hotel? In their black suits, the bodyguards had an overwhelming presence. They looked extremely tall, strong and professional. The bodyguard leading them immediately pushed him aside in one swift motion. He looked at the door inside and walked towards it. Hey, you can't, he was about to block them again when the bodyguard whipped out his own work pass. Upon seeing that the emblem shown on the pass was that of the president's personal guards, the man instantly went silent. He stood there as if someone had covered his mouth. Never would he have thought that these people were actually the president's personal guards and not ordinary bodyguards. Who exactly was the woman whom Feng Xiaoqing had brought here? Sensing that something was amiss here, the guards paid no heed to the man at the entrance and rushed directly to the door. They listened to what was happening inside before kicking the door open with a loud bang. Inside, Yu Minmin had been tied to Feng Xiaoqing's back. He was currently sitting at the window and was about to jump out. When he saw the people coming in, he was momentarily shocked to the point that his legs trembled and he nearly fell out the window. Don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll jump down. Feng Xiaoqing shouted and made a move to jump down. Yu Minmin merely felt that even her heart was trembling. When she looked down, it did not look that high. However, even if she would not die, it would definitely be disastrous if she fell from here. The president's personal bodyguards were not ordinary people. Seeing the current situation, they quickly decided on a course of action. Thereafter, they looked at him and said, "Let go of Madam President. We can discuss everything else amicably." "No, let me go and let this matter slide too. Otherwise, I'll jump down." They were inching closer and closer. One of the well-trained guards looked at Feng Xiaoqing and walked forward with steady steps while coaxing him gently, "We definitely will. Ma'am's safety is our first priority. I'll agree to any condition." "Really? Then, let me go right now and I'll put Yu Minmin down," Feng Xiaoqing shouted. In reality, his palms were covered in cold sweat. However, just then, during the conversation, two of the guards acted in perfect coordination. One kicked Feng Xiaoqing to the ground while the other quickly jumped onto him and pressed him to the ground. Feng Xiaoqing had forgotten that these people were far from ordinary people and had various skills. How could he possibly defend himself against them? Yu Minmin collapsed onto the ground, completely weak. However, when she turned her head to see Feng Xiaoqing pressed onto the ground harshly, she finally felt a sense of relief. One of the president's guards was about to help her up. But a cold voice pierced through the air in the room from behind them. "I'll do it." Yu Minmin froze. Then, she looked up and immediately saw that Gu Jingming was actually here. She wanted to speak but seemed to have exhausted all her strength. She looked up at Gu Jingming weakly. The light shone on his cold figure. Gu Jingming's entire body emitted a captivating and dangerous aura. With his brow furrowed, he was beside Yu Minmin in an instant. He looked at Yu Minmin as she opened and closed her mouth. Then, he looked down and lifted her in his arms in one swift motion. Yu Minmin whined and looked up weakly at his resolute expression. "Why are you here to put me down? What about your injuries?" "I'm fine, don't worry." He lifted her up horizontally and turned to look at Feng Xiaoqing. Feng Xiaoqing's face was pressed to the ground. He could only raise his eyes to look at Gu Jingming, who was almost within reach. Chapter 694. She was with a man like that. Gu Jingming remained completely silent and used only his gaze to control everyone present. Just by looking at people like this, his presence was so strong that everyone in the room was already intimidated. Furthermore, he picked Yu Minmin up like that as if she was merely as light as a doll. Feng Xiaoqing was still looking at him, but then, Gu Jingming's gaze suddenly landed on Feng Xiaoqing's own face. Gu Jingming looked at him with eyes that were cloudy and overcast. While gazing at him, he suddenly raised his leg and stepped on Feng Xiaoqing's face. Feng Xiaoqing was once again pressed firmly against the ground by his foot. With the stern and overbearing manner of a king, Gu Jingming looked at him from directly above. "Mr. President, seize him and turn him over to the authorities. Remember to do it properly," he said lightly and removed his foot from Feng Xiaoqing. Feng Xiaoqing's heart sank immediately. He looked at Yu Minmin's expressionless face gazing at him. He suddenly felt that whatever he had said earlier about her liking him and wanting him was completely ridiculous. How could Yu Minmin possibly be interested in any other man with a king like Gu Jingming by her side? Gu Jingming scoffed and immediately led his people out. On the other hand, Feng Xiaoqing was under the supervision of the guards. They literally seized him, inflicting immense pain on him. Despite this, they continued raining blows on him without hesitation as they pushed him out. He wanted to shout, but the guards immediately stuffed his mouth with something and took him out quietly. When they arrived outside, Yu Minmin looked at his firm chest as he hugged her close. She started to worry about his body, which had not yet recovered, and wanted him to put her down quickly so she could walk on her own. "Alright, stop moving." Gu Jingming pulled her body closer so she would not fall down. "It's fine, let me walk on my own. Your injuries." "I said I'm fine. You'll affect my injury only if you keep moving around." Gu Jingming walked out with her in his arms. When he looked up, he immediately saw Yin Suya standing outside and looking at him. Yu Minmin had her arms wound around Gu Jingming's neck at the moment. She blanked out slightly upon seeing Yin Suya. Yin Suya was the first to react. She asked solemnly, "What happened?" It's all right now, Suya, I'll get someone to send you back first," Gu Jingming said. However, Yin Suya hastily replied, "No need for that. I'll just go on my own. But you haven't recovered from your injuries yet, you should put her down first. I'll help you support her." When she looked at Yu Minmin leaning against Gu Jingming's chest weakly while Gu Jingming carried her with his strong body, Yin Suya simply found it an eyesore. However, Gu Jingming had already walked past Yin Suya with Yu Minmin in his arms. Then, he placed Yu Minmin into the car. Yin Suya clenched her teeth together. It was only when she saw Gu Jingming turn around to look at her that she said dejectedly, "Jingming, don't be so reckless. If you keep this up, it will be very bad for your body." "I know my body's condition very well," Gu Jingming said. Yin Suya immediately replied, "You may not know it that well." Gu Jingming glanced at Yin Suya meaningfully but did not respond. He said abruptly, "I'll get someone to send you home. I still have to take Yu Minmin to the doctor. Be careful on your way home." Yin Suya watched Gu Jingming turn around resolutely. She stood there furiously and suppressed her anger as her expression became even more indignant. In the car, Yu Minmin turned to look in Yin Suya's direction. "Were the two of you together earlier?" Gu Jingming nodded. "Yes." Yu Minmin let out a sound of affirmation and did not say anything else. Gu Jingming looked at her. "Suya came to take a look at my condition. She knew that something had happened and came to take a look." Oh. Hearing this, Yu Minmin looked at him in slight surprise. It was rare for him to explain himself. Gu Jingming asked, "Are you hurt anywhere?" Yu Minmin was immediately jolted back to her senses. "No, you came just in time. Any later and I may have fallen to the ground floor right now. By the way, how did you know?" "Lin Che realized that you were gone and went out to ask the guards." "Oh, that's fine then. I drank some vodka, then. You're not allowed to have such contact with any man in the future." Gu Jingming held her chin between his fingers and looked at her face. "Did you hear me? Respond." Yu Minmin hastily said, all right. I heard you. Let go of me." He was behaving like this even though the driver was there at the front. Yu Minmin turned away and no longer wanted to bother with him. However, she still felt grateful to him for rushing here to save her. She knew that he was still injured. Furthermore, there were always many procedures to be followed before the president could set off. It warmed her heart slightly when she thought about the fact that he had been willing to go through all the trouble to rush here. Just then, Gu Jingming handed his cell phone to her again. "Give Lin Che a call to let her know." "Oh, right, I nearly forgot." She quickly held the phone up and called Lin Che. It seemed to take a long time for Lin Che to answer. "What happened? Minmin, are you alright? You suddenly disappeared the moment the event ended. I wondered where you had run off to." Yu Minmin said, "Fortunately, I wasn't in any real danger. Right now, I just feel weak all over. I'll tell you the details tomorrow." "Oh, that's great then. Luckily, Mr. President rushed over there in time." Lin Che put the phone down. She was still at the event venue. After the event had ended, everyone left one after another. However, Lin Che had not gone back yet because she was anxious about Yu Minmin's safety. Beside her, Abby asked, "You're sure that she's safe now, right?" "Yes, I've confirmed it. Let's go. We should go back too." Being famous is truly difficult. You get into trouble much more easily because many people know you, you're in the open while he's acting undercover. Hearing this, Lin Che nodded in agreement and said, precisely. You're right. The two of them walked out together. While walking, they heard someone say in surprise, oh my god, I think I saw the president's personal guards just now. They were even wearing the presidential emblem. Where? They already walked out the door. Ah, what a pity. I didn't see them. Lin Che and Abby shrugged while listening. Lin Che said, seems like Minmin has already left. Yes. Lin Che returned home. Gu Jingze asked, I heard that something happened at the presidential office. Lin Che nodded. Yes, something happened. No wonder. Earlier, people from the presidential office turned a badly battered man over to the authorities. Seems like older brother's doing. Ah, Lin Che asked in confusion, badly battered. Did older brother hit him? Silly. Gu Jingze's lips turned up slightly. Does older brother even need to hit someone with his own hands? Lin Che realized that each of these rich and pampered sons was in actual fact worse than the next. Gu Jingze bopped her nose. By the way, get ready to return to the Gu residence tomorrow. For what? It's nothing much. We're just going back in the evening to eat together. I think Jingyan is pregnant and wants our family to go and celebrate. Wow, no way. She got pregnant so soon. I thought that she wouldn't get pregnant so early on because she's always arguing with Lu Baikan. Gu Jingze said, it's so easy to get pregnant. Was it easy? But why did she feel that it wasn't that easy? Yet it suddenly occurred to her that she had actually not had her period for a long time. Chapter 695. This can be your newlywed house now that so much time had passed. Was it time for her to check? However, she still did not dare to do a pregnancy test again because the last time was a false alarm. She was worried that she would be even more disappointed instead if she tested negative. Currently, she wanted to go with the flow and get pregnant, but at the same time, she was subconsciously pressuring herself. The next day, Lin Che and Gu Jingze went to the Gu residence. Since they had learned about Gu Jingyan's pregnancy, a jubilant atmosphere permeated the entire household. Lin Che and Gu Jingze entered the house together. Gu Jingze had also brought a symbolic present. Gu Jingyan's face showed no signs of her pregnancy and she looked exactly the same as she usually did. She sat there while chatting with Mu Wanqing. When she saw Gu Jingze and Lin Che, she smiled and said, sister-in-law, you're here. Gu Jingze placed the present beside her and Gu Jingyan immediately said, oh my, a present from second brother. Let me see what it is. She opened it only to see children's clothes inside. Gu Jingyan deliberately said with a dark expression, hey, no way. The great President Gu only gave me this. You're so stingy. How much did it cost? Gu Jingze immediately retorted, do you even need a present from me? Aren't your arms tired from receiving so many presents? As he spoke, he pointed to the huge pile of presents at the side. Everyone knew that Gu Jingyan had gotten pregnant shortly after the marriage between the Gu family and the Lu family. The child would definitely be born with a gold spoon in his mouth. With the Gu family on the maternal side and the Lu family on the paternal side, he would definitely be set for life in the future. So of course, people rushed to give them presents. Gu Jingyan scoffed. She wriggled her nose and said to Lin Che, by the way, sister-in-law, I heard that Mo Hilling's child is actually the child of Li Mingyu from A Nation. She's really something. She came here to make such a big fuss back then, but in the end, it was actually someone else's child she had brought here to cause trouble. Mu Wanqing joined in, forget it. Don't mention that woman. I feel disgusted just thinking about it. How can such a person exist? Gu Jingyan said, fortunately, she has already brought evil upon herself anyway. We don't even know what has happened to her now, right, sister-in-law? Lin Che nodded while they sat down. Of course, the best way forward is for the dust to settle. Mu Wanqing said, little Che must have been in so shocked for some time. I'll ask the chefs to make more good food for you later. Thank you, mother, Lin Che said. Mu Wanqing said, by the way, you're going to hold your wedding soon. When you return after you've had your wedding overseas, we must invite friends and family who weren't able to make it. When the time comes, you should use one of the houses in our old residence as your newlywed house. The house that Jingze used to live in is still empty. We'll go over and tidy it up a bit later. We'll see what needs to be added so that it can be your newlywed house, alright? Lin Che knew that Gu Jingze naturally had her own reasons for this arrangement. Lin Che and Gu Jingze were currently staying in the house that Gu Jingze had moved to after becoming an adult. However, the Gu residence was his old nest. They would be showing respect for the Gu family's traditions by having their wedding here. The family would also be able to join in the fun with them. Lin Che and Gu Jingze went to the house. People came here to tidy up the place every day, so it was very clean. Lin Che immediately collapsed onto his huge bed. Lying there, she said, "This place is so big, but you still left to get a big house of your own. You can really do anything you want if you're rich. Why, do you want to stay here?" Gu Jingze said as he lay down with her. Lin Che said, "Of course not. I was just making a comment." Gu Jingze patted her face. "If you actually stay here for a few days, you'll know that it isn't as comfortable as our house." "Why, but we have our own villa here too. If we're in our own house, what's the difference?" "Of course, it's different. For instance, when I'm with you, the people outside will definitely hear us." "What?" Before she could continue, his lips had already pressed down on hers. He bit her lips and teased her lip corners. However, he did not invade her mouth and just merely licked and bit her lips. She looked at him and was so tortured by the weight that she decided to take the initiative on her own. She stuck her tongue out wanting to explore his mouth, but Gu Jingze even avoided it at this moment. Gu Jingze smiled as he watched her stick her tongue out with her eyes half-lidded. Her tongue drew a circle in the air but did not touch anything, causing her to frown with dissatisfaction. He smiled faintly, looked at her, and asked, "Do you want it so badly?" What did he mean by that? She knew nothing at all. "All right, I'll satisfy you right away." As he spoke, he pulled her into his embrace and finally took her tongue between his lips, sucking on it until there were even sounds. Lin Che felt that her brain was being electrocuted again and again. Thereafter, her body began to tremble as well. She hugged him and let out wanton sounds. His hands began teasing her body. They sneaked under her clothes from below and cupped her breasts while his fingers caressed her as he wished. Lin Che went completely rigid as he touched her. She felt her clothes get pushed upwards, exposing her skin to the air. In the next instant, his burning hot chest pressed down on her. The friction between her skin and his shirt made her body heat up even more. It was a long time before she went limp in his embrace. She could no longer withstand it and mumbled weakly, "No more. Let me go, let me go." It had never been Gu Jingze's intention to do anything to her here. He simply liked to see her get pampered by him. While smiling, he kissed her forehead before saying, "All right. I'll satisfy you properly when we go back. Otherwise, everyone in the family will know about it when we go out later." Ah, Lin Che suddenly recalled where they were. She was immediately going to die from regret. "How mean. Then why did you still tease me? Hey, you were clearly being very active just now. Anyway, it's your fault." In broad daylight. Lin Che was about to hit him as she spoke. Gu Jingze instantly dodged and smiled as he looked in Lin Che's direction. Lin Che got up and started chasing after him. Gu Jingze smiled and said, "You dare lay a hand on me? Well, Lin Che, you're really becoming more and more audacious." "Humph, why wouldn't I dare to hit you? I think you're a prime example of sparing the rod and spoiling the child. Get over here, yours truly must give you a beating." While speaking, Lin Che sprang towards him again and tried to hit him. Gu Jingze immediately evaded her. Lin Che followed in pursuit. "How dare you run away? You'll be punished even more when I catch you." However, Gu Jingze stopped abruptly. Lin Che did not stop in time and collided directly with his sturdy chest. The impact hurt her, causing her to let out a sound as she looked at him. Why did this man have to be so sturdy for no reason? He did not even have a single ounce of fat to lessen the impact. She really did not understand how his body could be so hard. She looked up at him plaintively. "Why did you suddenly stop?" Gu Jingze said, didn't you say that you would double the punishment if I ran away? I was afraid of that. Chapter 696. You must keep an eye on my second brother. Gu Jingze said, didn't you say that you would double the punishment if I ran away? I was afraid of that. He looked down and took her chin between his fingers. But if this is my punishment, I don't mind any amount of punishment. While saying this, he captured her lips in another sweet kiss. Lin Che really liked the feeling of kissing him. She never got sick of it at all and wanted to deepen the kiss each time as if to absorb his energy. She also enjoyed how he played with her tongue. He teased her tongue and embraced her deeply thereafter. He then grabbed her legs and pulled her to his body. He lifted her high with each of her legs on either side so that he could kiss her with even more force. As he walked out, the maids who saw them quickly acted as if they had not and got out of the way. However, at the same time, they could not help but want to turn around to look at the clingy married couple. Young master and young madam are truly a blissful couple. I feel so envious watching them, the maid said lovingly and instinctively placed her chin on her hand. They truly found it amazing, especially when they saw how Gu Jingze, who usually looked cold as ice, pampered Lin Che so much as if they were about to become conjoined twins. Furthermore, their young master was so charismatic when he was being gentle. Shortly after, the family gathered to eat dinner. It was rare for Ji Yushan to come out for a meal as well. He glanced at Lin Che and Gu Jingze upon seeing them. Gu Jingze greeted him followed by Lin Che. Ji Yushan glanced at Lin Che, waved, and said, all right, sit down and eat. Everyone had especially gathered at home this time to celebrate Gu Jingyan's pregnancy. Naturally, the gathering could not go without advice for Gu Jingyan. You'll be a mother in the future. Don't throw tantrums with Baikan anymore, Mu Wanqing said. Gu Jingyan replied, what tantrums? I've never done that. Mu Wanqing said, you've been together with him for so many years but the two of you are still arguing. If you continue arguing after the child is born, the child will see everything. When the time comes, you wouldn't want your child to laugh at you too, right? Okay, mother, eat more, yum. Gu Jingyan hastily took some food for Mu Wanqing. Mu Wanqing knew that she was trying to shut her up and did not want her to say any more. Thus, she could only shake her head and look at Gu Jingyan. Since she could not control her daughter, she turned to Lin Che and said, eat up. You must have been dead tired recently. No, mother, I'm not tired. Lin Che smiled. She ate the prawn that Mu Wanqing had put on her plate and said, thank you, mother. She started peeling the shell of the prawn then and there. However, the shell of the prawn was a little hard. While peeling it, some blood appeared on her fingertips. Mu Wanqing said, dear me, what's going on? Are you bleeding? Lin Che hastily said in embarrassment, it's nothing. Just a small wound. After saying this, she stuffed her fingers into her mouth and sucked on it, hoping to solve the problem. Beside her, Gu Jingze saw this and put down his chopsticks. Then, he said, all right, stop peeling. You're so clumsy. He pulled her hands to him swiftly and frowned as he looked at the wounds on her fingers. Then, he glared at this careless Lin Che again. Nevertheless, he bent his head down and blew at her wounds carefully. Thereafter, he unexpectedly placed her fingers into his mouth directly and sucked on them slightly. Immediately, Lin Che sensed everyone's eyes on them. Lin Che's expression was so awkward that her face nearly hardened into a rock. Did Gu Jingze not notice that she had already sucked her fingers earlier? How could he still stuff them into his mouth? Gu Jingze lifted her hands and looked at them again. Seeing that her fingers were fine, he said, that's enough. Put the prawns here, I'll help you peel them. Lin Che made a sound of affirmation. Gu Jingze took the remaining prawns from her and started peeling them quietly. On the other side, Gu Jingyan's jaw seemed as if it was about to drop. She looked at Gu Jingze and said, second brother, you've really changed. Gu Jingze frowned. What? Gu Jingyan noticed his gaze and hastily said, nothing. It's just that I really envy you, sister-in-law. Lin Che's face turned even redder as she said, what? Gu Jingyan said, tell me. Don't you think the young ladies out there will feel their hearts jump out when they see second brother like this? Yet you're enjoying such tenderness from him every day. Gu Jingze's eyes sank again and he glared at Gu Jingyan as a warning. Mu Wanqing sat there watching. She laughed and said, "Child, this means that your second brother has matured." Gu Jingyan said, "No, no. It means that sister-in-law is full of charm. Look, second brother is still so fierce towards me." Gu Jingze looked at her. "You're going to give birth to a child for another family. There is no point being nice to you." "Excuse me, this child from another family is going to be your biological nephew in the future. How dare you reject my child? Do you dare reject him?" Gu Jingze merely kept silent and placed the peeled prawn into Lin Che's bowl. Mu Wanqing smiled and turned her head only to see Ji Yushand eating quietly as well. His gaze landed on Lin Che and Ji Jingze. He glanced at them before saying to Ji Jingyan, "Once the child is born, get your mother to send an experienced maid to go over and assist you." "I don't think there's any need. They're from the Lu family, so we're worried." Ji Yushand continued, "After all, this is the first child of a new generation in our Ji family. Even if his surname is Lu, we'll still dote on him like he's our own grandson." Ji Jingyan smiled and started eating, feeling a little pressured. As she looked on, Lin Che felt that the children of the Ji family definitely grew up with gold spoons in their mouths. The moment they were born, there were so many people waiting on them hand and foot. Finally, they finished their meal. Gu Jingze went out to give instructions on setting up their new house here, so Lin Che stayed inside to chat with Mu Wanqing and Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan was still saying, "Mother, you didn't see them earlier. The way second brother looked at sister-in-law gave me goosebumps. Second brother is truly so loving that people may die looking at him." Mu Wanqing asked, "What? I'm getting more and more confused by the way you guys speak now." Gu Jingyan said, "Anyway, it just gives me goosebumps. No wonder so many women are in a rush to be in line after you when they see second brother in you. Second brother is so attractive when he's being nice to someone, so the women will definitely throw all caution to the wind. Sister-in-law, you must keep an eye on second brother in the future." Lin Che said disbelievingly, "I don't know how to do that." "I'll teach you if you don't know. Sneak a tracker onto his body, hee. You only know how to teach the wrong things." Just then, Ji Yushan's voice unexpectedly traveled from inside. The moment Ji Jingyan looked up and saw Ji Yushand, she quickly stuck her tongue out and lowered her head. Ji Yushand looked at Lin Che. "Little Che, come here for a moment. Grandfather has something to give you." Lin Che paused and glanced at Mu Wanqing, who looked slightly worried. Mu Wanqing stood up and said, "Father, this." Ji Yushand said, "Don't worry. It's something for the wedding." Mu Wanqing only stopped worrying then. She said, "Go, little Che." Chapter 697. If I'm not good enough, neither are you. Lin Che nodded. She looked at Ji Yushand and followed him inside. Ji Yushan's study room looked extremely stylish. The color scheme was vintage and the tall bookshelves were piled high with various books. Ji Yushand sat down and gestured for Lin Che to sit as well. He looked at Lin Che and said, "Don't be nervous. I called you here just to give you this present for your wedding. Even though you've been married for so long, having a wedding ceremony is a happy occasion, right?" He passed Lin Che a box. Lin Che froze and took it from him. She opened it only to find a jade pendant. The pendant looked slightly antique. At a glance, it had an imposing manner to it. Coupled with Ji Yushan's status, Lin Che was sure that this item was of considerable value. "Grandfather, this," Lin Che wanted to ask what this was and whether it was very precious. She was worried that something would happen to such a priceless item if it was placed in her care, given how clumsy she was. Ji Yushand said, "This is an heirloom left behind by Jingze's grandmother. Your mother-in-law has one, and now you do too." "Huh." Ji Yushand looked at her and said, "Little Che, I really do like you. You say such sweet words and you're completely unrestrained. You've brought a lot of joy to our family. I know that you're a good woman, but..." Lin Che's heart sank abruptly for no reason. As she looked at Ji Yushand, she kept feeling uncomfortable. Ji Yushand said, "But you've also seen how your mother-in-law is. You're different from her. She has lived in this environment since she was very young. After she married Jingze's father, she naturally started to help me run this household. Little Che, let me ask you. Do you think you have what it takes to run this household with more than 100 people with your mother-in-law? Lin Che had never thought that she would have to do these things. Of course, she was not as formidable as Mu Wanqing and did not know how to do these things either. Ji Yushand looked at Lin Che's expression and smiled at her. Little Che, you're not suitable for Jing's. Lin Che's heart jolted. Ji Yushand shook his head and said, if our family was ordinary or if Jing's wasn't Jing's but Jingyu or Jingming, you wouldn't have to bother with anything and just be Madam Jiyu. However, Jing's bears the responsibility of the entire Jiyu family on his shoulders. I thought that he would be responsible for the entire Jiyu family since he was young. Thus, to attain this goal, he must be absolutely rational. He cannot be swayed by his emotions. Back then, I already predicted some problems with Mo Hilling. But fortunately, he merely opposed me for some time before understanding his own position, so he did not stubbornly rebel to the end. Feeling slightly uneasy, Lin Che leaned backward and looked at Ji Yushand. Then, Ji Yushand refocused his attention and said, when your mother-in-law told me that you and Ji Jingze had definitely had sexual relations, I merely wanted to kill two birds with one stone, so I forced him to marry you. Little Che, you're a good woman, but you will only drag him down. Grandfather. Lin Che looked at Ji Yushand and continued as if in slight disappointment, I thought that you were Ji Jingze's good grandfather, but right now, I'm a little disappointed in you. Ji Yushand froze. How dare she speak to him this way? Lin Che said, killing two birds with one stone back then, you wanted Ji Jingze to marry me to tear Ji Jingze and Mo Hilling apart on one hand and to find him a woman he could not possibly like on the other hand. In that way, he would be the rational puppet of the Jiyu family, right? Ji Yushand narrowed his eyes even more. Lin Che smiled. Grandfather, you're right, I'm not worthy of Ji Jingze. Of course, I feel that my status, my family background, my personality, and my educational qualifications are no match for Ji Jingze. But you're not worthy of Ji Jingze either. He's a great person but you're a terrible grandfather. You. Lin Che said, you've already failed once but you still haven't learned your lesson until now. You still don't understand that you can't control a person's future. That's God's job, not yours. So in the first place, you can't control Ji Jingze's life according to your wishes. Without me, there would still be another woman who would give Ji Jingze warmth. Therefore, I'm definitely not the one who's dragging him down. You are. You're the one who made him feel that the world is cold as ice. That's why he's easily attracted to warm things because that's what he lacks in his life. I gave him warmth, so he wanted to be together with me. Perhaps all of this happened not because of how great I am but because his life has been terrible. He's like a child who has never eaten candy. When someone gives him candy, he thinks that he has gone to heaven even though that's just candy. I am indeed terrible, but you should reflect on yourself too. You Lin Che, get out. Lin Che drew in a breath and stood up. Grandfather, don't get too angry. Indeed, I'm not worthy of Ji Jingze. I'm not good at anything. But at least at times like these, I should step forward and defend our relationship. Only then would I be worthy of everything that Ji Jingze has done for me. Ji Yushan's eyes were twitching as he looked at Lin Che. He had always thought that she was a little lass who did not know how to retaliate. But he had been wrong. He said, get out. Get out right now. Lin Che bowed and looked at Ji Yushand. Then, she walked out on her own. While she could not win against these veterans in certain areas, she could not give up so easily either. Furthermore, she had meant every word she said. Grandfather had taken it too far. With the way he spoke about Ji Jingze, what did he treat Ji Jingze as? How could it be that the Jiyu family was important, but Ji Jingze himself was not? Ultimately, he was a person too, not a tool. How could anyone be born to head a household? How could anyone be born destined not to have his own personal life? But she knew for a fact that she was a slight burden on Ji Jingze. In the room, Ji Yushand felt a little flustered from being criticized. He was in the wrong and he knew it, but the Jiyu family had always been run this way. He was old and felt physically poor. He knew that his body was getting worse and he barely had a few years left. If Jingze made a mistake again at a time like this, He would not die content. Subconsciously, he had a feeling that Lin Che would become Gu Jingze's Achilles heel. But the head of a household could not have any weakness. He held the door for support and suddenly began coughing violently. The doctor quickly walked in from behind. "Old master, the breeze at the window is strong. It's bad for your body. You should go in." Gu Shand waved his hand. "I know that my illness can't be cured. Don't waste your effort on restoring my health either." "Old master, what are you saying?" "But I still can't die for the time being. No matter how much money I spend, make sure that I can stay alive. I'll live another day if I can." Chapter 698. Mu Feiran is getting married. Lin Che headed out. Gu Jingze caught up with her. He looked at her and stopped, his gaze full of worry. He looked at Lin Che for a while before walking up to her. He took her hand and asked, "Why did grandfather come to look for you?" Lin Che said, "Nothing much. Grandfather just wanted to give me this." She took out the jade and showed it to Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze took it in his hand. He narrowed his eyes as if he was doubting her words. Holding onto her shoulder, he looked at her and asked, "What did grandfather tell you?" Lin Che said, All right, nothing much actually. He just told me that he thinks I'm a burden to you." Gu Jingze's brows furrowed. She could tell his brows furrowed and the vein on his forehead twitched. The teeth in his mouth moved slightly and produced a grinding sound. He skirted around Lin Che and wanted to look for Gu Shand. Lin Che clutched onto his waist. Gu Jingze froze. Lin Che said, "Gu Jingze." He turned his head around. Lin Che looked at him and sighed, "Actually, grandfather was not wrong. I am indeed a burden to you. I don't have any skills and I'm stupid. I can't help you with your work at all. Since you are my wife, there's no problem of you burdening me. Being married means we now live their lives together. Should one of us have to find another person with more knowledge to live with for the rest of their lives? Can I not be with you because I'm smarter than you? That's certainly not marriage, but the handing over of work, isn't it?" Lin Che swatted his shoulders. "What do you mean by not that smart? Compared to you I'm just a little lacking, just a little okay." She stretched out her fingers to indicate a small amount. Gu Jingze laughed in his deep voice. He looked at Lin Che and pulled her in for a hug. "Iya, what are you trying to do?" He lifted her up and went out. Her lightweight body made her seem like a dragonfly flying across the air. Taken aback, she wrapped her arms tightly around Gu Jingze's neck. He wanted to tell her badly that he loved her silliness, her naivety, and her simplicity. Besides, if she truly lacked as she thought, she would not have achieved the success and status she had. There would not be so many people who loved her and were willing to stand on her side. She was truly wonderful and had a sincere and warm personality. Everyone loved to be around her and befriended her. She treated her friends with genuine sincerity and thus, she gained more and more friends. These were all her strengths. Of course, these were her strengths from others' perspective. To him, she was very important. She did not know that she was actually helpful to his career. On the contrary, for the sake of his family, he wanted to do his job well, and because he wanted to share his life with another person, he worked hard to make himself a better person. There was joy found in being the breadwinner of the family. He kissed her repeatedly and all the envious eyes in the room rested on them. Lin Che blushed. She swatted him and left the room together. The next day, Lin Che received an abrupt invitation card from Mu Feiran's work studio. Yu Minmin handed it over to Lin Che. Lin Che opened the envelope and it was a wedding invitation. "Wow, that's unexpected. Mu Feiran is getting married." Yu Minmin took it over for a look. "Oh, she's marrying Mo Ding." Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che and explained, "Some people in the industry have already known about this. This Mo Ding is the CEO of Mu Feiran's company. They have been together for many years. We are not sure whether they have already registered for marriage. However, they have never announced it before because Mo Ding knows that if Mu Feiran announces that she's getting married to her company's CEO, it disrupts her promotions and is not beneficial for her image. That's the reason why they have never announced their relationship. Now that Mu Feiran has achieved so much success, it's time to consider marriage." "I see. Now that they have sent out the invitation, does that mean they are going to announce it publicly?" I guess so. There have been rumors that after her wedding, she would not be taking as much production works in the future. Oh, that's a pity, Lin Che said. She has excellent acting skills. It will be a great loss to the industry when she decides to stop acting. After all these years, I guess it's time to stop. She took the invitation card for another look and told Lin Che, there are most likely going to be many who will attend Mu Feiren's wedding. The reporters will swarm there too. You better prepare yourself well, and it's just in time for the Witchcraft Handbook promotion period. Now, you gain a free promotional opportunity. Hey, someone's getting married. Why am I going there to promote myself? The main lead ought to be Sister Feiren. Yes, you are just there to get some coverage. I didn't expect her to invite you to her wedding. That's great. Alright, go and prepare. What are you waiting for? Lin Che pouted her lips. She looked at the invitation card and thought of her own wedding. For her, she would have to marry in secret. Otherwise, she would not make it as the main lead of her own wedding. That devil Gu Jingze would definitely steal her limelight. Thinking to herself, she suddenly felt nauseous. She was about to puke but managed to hold it in. She blinked and was trying to decipher the feeling she had a moment ago. She thought to herself. It felt like she was pregnant. Although she had not been pregnant before, it felt exactly the same as what was usually written in the scripts. She wanted to grab a test kit to examine if she was truly pregnant, yet at the same time, she dared not do it. The feeling felt so real and she was frightened. This was strange. She was usually very courageous, but why had she become so timid at that moment? She shook her head quickly. She did not want to be a coward. Even if she was really pregnant with a child, so be it. There was nothing to lose anyway. She could not help but to place her hands on her lower abdomen. The news of Mu Feiren getting married was publicly announced on the day Lin Che received the invitation card. Mu Feiren was marrying her company's CEO Mo Ding, who had been with her for 8 years, and this garnered mixed reactions. Some people felt that Mo Ding was not good enough for a goddess like Mu Feiren. Even though he was good-looking, he did not come from a prominent family. Besides, he was just the CEO of an entertainment company. The most influential individual was Mu Feiren. He used her as a tool to make money and eventually married her. This was truly outrageous. Some also felt that the couple had been together for many years and were finally getting married. This meant true love. In fact, there were not many female superstars who did not marry into wealthy families, but Mu Feiren was a true gem. Lin Che had prepared her formal dress and was considering who to attend the party with. The first person who came to her mind was Gu Jingze, so she sent him a message on WeChat, who will you be attending the wedding with? What wedding? Your wedding. This was the reply which Gu Jingze gave. Lin Che said in frustration, dummy, didn't Mu Feiren invite you to her wedding? Oh, you meant her wedding. I'm attending it alone. Oh, that's great. If everyone ignores me, I'm sticking with you. I don't care if they say that I'm cozying up to you. I will just do it. Anyway, it's going to be awkward that many people in the industry will also be attending the wedding. I don't want to sit with them and pretend to laugh with them. Alright, since it's rare that the popular superstar Lin Che still thinks of small fry like me, I will listen to you, teased Gu Jingze. Chapter 699. There were many people at the wedding. Scram off. Stop arguing here. Mu Feiren's wedding gained immense attention because many preparations had been done discreetly, and when it came to the day of the public announcement, the wedding was around the corner. That day, the media outlets were all well prepared. The wedding was very grand and it seemed that they had put a lot of effort into its preparation. Lin Che and Yu Minmin brought Abby along to have fun together. When Abby saw the wedding venue, she exclaimed, "Wow, you guys are holding such grand weddings here." Yu Minmin replied, "That's the case for many celebrities, especially big movie stars like Mu Feiren. She's the most popular celebrity in C country and that's why her wedding is so grand. She doesn't have to spend much on her own wedding because she will get many sponsorships for it, from jewelry to wedding dresses and hotels. Everything has been taken care of." Is that so? Oh, it must be great to be a superstar then, Abby said. Yu Minmin smiled and asked, "You want to become one? Come to my agency, I will groom you well." Really? Abby was doubtful. Yu Minmin said, First, get your dad to pump in $10 million of capital. You will surely become the most outstanding newcomer next year. Abby looked at Yu Minmin with contempt. Yu Minmin asked, "Are you serious?" "Alright, let's not talk about money. Shall we head out to take a look?" Half of the entertainment industry had been invited to the grand wedding of Mu Feiran. Whoever Lin Che thought of had come to the wedding. Yu Minmin pulled Lin Che in and said, "Yeah, she even invited Qin Wanwan." "That's not surprising. She should invite everyone she had worked with her before, right?" Yu Minmin said, "Exactly. That's strange because they have not worked together before. However, Mu Feiran might have invited her out of courtesy. After all, they have met each other before, it wouldn't be nice if she's not invited. Besides, judging from Qin Wanwan's status in the entertainment industry, it is right that she attends the wedding." The three of them went in together. Upon reaching the main entrance, the receptionist saw Yu Minmin and invited her in at once. Not all managers were allowed to attend the wedding, but everyone knew Yu Minmin's identity and dared not stop her. The people who were not allowed to enter could only sigh at this sight as they were not as influential as Yu Minmin. Even Abby, who did not have any recognition in the country, was let in on her account. They arrived at the wedding hall quickly. The three of them took hold of the schedule list to look at the flow of the wedding. There were indeed many formalities to be observed in the wedding. The ceremony was in the morning while the banquet was held at night. They invited two distinguished hosts to be the MCs. Everything was set in place according to the highest standards. While they were still looking through the schedule, there came Qin Wanwan's voice from the other side, "Ayo, Lin Che. I heard that you had another scandal lately. That's weird. How did you manage to find so many ideas to generate hype when I can't think of any?" The sight of Qin Wanwan mocking Lin Che made one feel disgusted. Previously, they had not realized how disgusting she was while she spoke. Yu Minmin said, "Seriously though, if one gets popular, whatever small thing he or she does will become big news. My apologies. We didn't want to appear on the news for such matters." "Oh, I see. Do you still have to source for ideas yourself?" "We have stopped finding them long ago. If you are truly popular, the news will come to you naturally. You don't have to spend so much effort looking for them yourself." "You." Qin Wanwan glared at Yu Minmin. Then, Abby, who was standing at the side, spoke suddenly, "Oh, it's you. I was still feeling a little puzzled and unsure of where I have seen you before. After hearing your disgusting words, I finally remember you. Why, did you think that you can be so haughty just because you are in Sea Country?" Qin Wanwan froze for a moment. She stared at this young lady before her. She could definitely recognize her even if she turned into ashes. It was Wesley's young daughter. What was she doing at Sea Country together with Lin Che? Qin Wanwan thought to herself. She felt that she was outnumbered that day. With the three of them together, she would have a hard time. She did not expect Lin Che to bring Abigail home. Qin Wanwan snorted and said, "Forget it. I have something to do. Have fun exploring the place." Qin Wanwan left hurriedly. Yu Minmin turned her head towards Lin Che and said, the moment she saw Abby, she became a mouse that met a cat. "I'm really curious how pitiful she was when she was in America." Lin Che said, "Most likely it was because we have more people today and she's at a disadvantage." Yu Minmin said, "But lately, you have completely surpassed her. Fewer reports are comparing you two. She may be popular for a moment, but her acting skills are incomparable to yours, so in time, her popularity decreased as well. Even after she went to Dynamic Pictures and they tried so hard to make her popular, they didn't succeed. The spotlight on you is too great and it has overshadowed her. Thus, she's always the second option and can't be more popular than you now." Lin Che shrugged. "I'm okay with losing, but if I can't win against her, my life is in vain." Humph. At that moment, a voice that had not been heard for a long time called out from behind them. "Hey, you told me to come together with you, yet you didn't wait for me and came in yourself." Gu Jingze came. The three of them turned around and Gu Jingze was already standing behind them. Lin Che said, "No, I brought a friend along, but later on at the dinner banquet, the names were already indicated on each table. Likely, my friend won't able to sit together with me. They must have arranged the seating arrangement beforehand and it wouldn't be nice for us to change the arrangement. Thus, I wanted to look for you to sit together." Gu Jingze said, yes, the guests seated at the front are definitely superstars, so the cameras can capture them easily. Events like this will make the celebrities with high popularity sit together to meet the requests of media reporters and sponsors. Then, they can take photos of them together in the same shot. Later on, if we are not sitting together, I will take the name tag and go over to you. I doubt the person next to you will refuse. Alright then, he was right. If the person who requested to change seats was Gu Jingze, who would dare to refuse him? Gu Jingze wanted to enter the hall together with Lin Che, but he noticed a young lady next to them. She was looking at him with a shy expression. That was Abby for sure. She eyed the good-looking guy before her and exclaimed in amazement, wow, Lin Che. Why are there so many good-looking guys around you? Lin Che turned her head to look at Gu Jingze. She could understand why people would be amazed when they meet him for the first time. Lin Che said, yes, that's because he's Gu Jingze's younger brother. What? After Abby understood the situation, she mumbled to herself, no wonder, no wonder. Gu Jingze said, is she the one whom second brother mentioned, the Weasley who came back together with you? Yes. Gu Jingze asked, has your company turned into a childcare center? Abby was exasperated, I am old enough, okay. I'm going to be an adult very soon. Gu Jingze laughed it off and said, let's go Lin Che. Let's see where we will be sitting. Chapter 700. Marrying someone you want to marry is blissful. Hey, you guys. Yu Minmin saw this. She laughed as she took Abai to find their seats. Some media crew and managers were seated behind. They also had seats allocated to them. Lin Che and Gu Jingze walked over and realized that they were assigned seats at the same table. This was even better. It would save her the trouble of asking to swap seats. Gu Jingze and Lin Che sat down together. Lin Che then realized that this table was occupied by some big directors and elite actors. Thus, the minute she sat down, she could feel an even bigger pressure. Beside her, Gu Jingze saw this and chimed in, it looks like I worried for nothing. Your position now is completely on par with me. Hey, Gu Jingze, don't talk nonsense. I'll be beaten up by your fans. But it's the truth. You see, you've already been arranged to sit here. I don't know why either. Lin Che was certain that she definitely was not at that level yet. However, she had no other explanation at the moment. She wondered what the person who did the arrangement was thinking. Lin Che chatted a little with the people at the table, but she was not very good at chatting up strangers. Even if she had met them before, she always felt a little awkward. Thus, she decided that it was better not to talk. She sat there quietly and only talked to Gu Jingze. Everyone thought that Lin Che was a little cold, but they could only say that secretly. She was a big shot now and wouldn't interact with just anyone. She would only talk to people like Gu Jingze now. Lin Che's popularity was rising lately and everyone didn't have anything to say. They could only look on with jealousy and envy. The wedding was starting soon. When the bride appeared, she naturally looked amazing. Mu Feiran wore bridal gowns and acted as a bride many times. However, this was the first time that she was a real bride. That heartwarming appearance was absolutely not something she could act out. Subsequently, the groom finally appeared. As he was rarely seen in photos, the reporters turned their cameras to the groom and frantically snapped away. This man was not bad looking. He looked fair and neat. However, there were plenty of handsome guys in the entertainment industry who have worked with Mu Feiran before. They matched her a lot better than this guy. Thus, in comparison, the husband that Mu Feiran found now was indeed not very good looking. However, love was not a beauty pageant. It was normal that fans felt it was a waste. Lin Che thought that as long as it was true love, they deserved to receive blessings. Gu Jingze shook his head and said, for Feiran to be with such a guy, what a waste. Lin Che said, how so? Sister Feiran chose him herself and they have been together for many years. Didn't you say that they hid their marriage? Gu Jingze said, but this man simply has no standards. Anyway, you don't understand. There are many rumors about him, but he is probably okay to Feiran. That is why she would like him. It's just that from the perspective of a businessman, he really can't be called a good man. Lin Che did not quite understand all these. As an outsider, they had no rights to judge. It was just that Mu Feiren was a very good person and she also hoped that Mu Feiren would have the love she deserved. The wedding ceremony was heartwarming and romantic. As the company's boss, Mo Ding did not like appearing on camera and was thus a little embarrassed. Mu Feiren smiled very blissfully. They could tell that she truly liked this man. When the ceremony was over, Mu Feiren then came over to thank everyone for coming. The wedding apparently cost a lot. However, because there were sponsors, everyone didn't feel the pinch for Mu Feiren. Mu Feiren naturally came to Lin Che's table first. Looking at Lin Che and Gu Jingze, she said, "Thank you for coming all the way here." "Not at all. Congratulations, Sister Feiren. Your wedding was very romantic," Lin Che said. Mu Feiren beamed from ear to ear. "Really? Everyone had their own events. My wedding was too sudden, so you guys must have been shocked too." Gu Jingze said, "Yes, I didn't expect you to marry so suddenly. However, are you really not going to act that much in the future?" "If I can, of course, I hope to reduce my work and live life peacefully. This line of work gets a little tiring the longer you're in it." Gu Jingze stood up and hugged her. Mu Feiren also hugged Lin Che. "I heard that you're going to film in Hollywood. This movie should probably be very good. Congratulations. If Sister Feiren didn't want to hold a wedding, I wouldn't have this chance. But my acting is already outdated. The future is yours now. All the best." "Yes, yes." Mu Feiren went around thanking everyone before returning behind. The reporters continually took photos and posted on Weibo. In the posts, every media group reported on this extravagant wedding. As for the star-studded guest list, the media also did not spare them and snapped photos of them at all angles. Naturally, some people also noticed Lin Che's seating position and they said in surprise, did Mu Feiren intentionally arrange for Lin Che to sit there, hinting that Lin Che would be her successor and the new queen in the entertainment circle? They made a comparison. Qin Wanwan also attended the wedding but she was seated further away. Everyone also wondered. They used to compare Lin Che with Qin Wanwan. Qin Wanwan went to Dynamic Pictures and chased Lin Che out. On the surface, it seemed as if Lin Che formed a group because she was chased out. However, ever since then, Qin Wanwan went through ups and downs and was not as good as before. In comparison, Lin Che was the one flourishing and it looked like her future was also very bright. It was only recently that people questioned if her acting was good enough for Blood. Because Blood was not filming yet, nobody knew if she could really pass or not. Mu Feiren had 3 different gowns today and each one had a major sponsor. It was extremely luxurious. Mu Feiren watched the liveliness outside, feeling very vexed. However, all she could think about was to quickly get the wedding over with. Tonight was her wedding night and they were going to spend it on the highest floor of the hotel. Tomorrow, she would officially be Mrs. Mo. She didn't want to think about anything else. She only wanted to live well with her own man. Just then, Mo Ding entered and looked at Mu Feiren rather impatiently. "Feiren, you were too sloppy with your greetings just now. You didn't even say hi to a big boss and you didn't answer some reporters." Mu Feiren adjusted her earrings. "I told you not to make it so grand. I wanted a smaller wedding but you were not willing. You even invited so many people that I don't know. You shocked half of the entertainment circle. How can I greet so many people properly?" This was requested by the sponsors. "Furthermore, you are Mu Feiren. How can we let your wedding be so small? Everyone is already saying that I don't match up to you. If we held a smaller wedding, people would be saying how I'm mistreating you." Mu Feiren's hands shook. She knew that he had been angry about this recently. She could only take a deep breath and reply to him, "It's okay. Don't listen to their nonsense. They only say that because they don't know you.